Thank you all for joining us for the May 2022 Melanated Mondays, brought to you by Black Revolutionary Theater Workshop. If it happens to be your first time joining us, there's something very important to know about BRTW, which is that we exist to disrupt any and all oppressive systems that marginalize Black people, using narrative and performance as a methodology to center Black people and experiences. We recognize that economic, social, educational, healthcare, housing, and political injustice face our community. And we aim to tackle the issues that impact Black communities while becoming a beacon for Black opportunity within the arts. And one of the ways that we attempt to do that is through the program that you're joining us to view this evening, called Melanated Mondays. Melanated Mondays is a monthly writing and performance salon highlighting a different theme at the intersection of Black justice and civic engagement. This programming was made possible in part with support from the Brooklyn Arts Council, Alliance of Resident Theaters New York, the Howard Gilman Fund, and of course, the support of our community. This month's theme is socialism. And it's never been a secret that a key part of BRTW's intellectual heritage is the work of socialist thinkers, organizers, and artists. And as the pandemic has directed an even harsher light on the realities of labor exploitation, the white supremacist and classist forces underlying modern policing, the dangers of systemic ableism and capital interest in medicine, we thought that this May was the perfect time to devote some energy to this philosophy, political orientation, and movement. And tonight's speaker is Samantha Davis, whose interests include comparative political theory, historical theory, and the archive, specifically within the Black political tradition in the Americas. She's currently working on a project that explores the age of revolutions across the Black Atlantic. Most recently, Samantha Davis has accepted a Mellon postdoctoral position at Oberlin College beginning fall 2022. This position, focusing on Black political thought, will be situated as a joint appointment in the Africana Studies and Politics Department at Oberlin College. Samantha is currently completing a dissertation on the tradition of Black statescraft, focusing on the thought of Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Frederick Douglass, and CLR James. Tonight we have performances from After Swarm, which, if you've been with us for a while, maybe you actually caught live. We've performed After Swarm in Brooklyn and in Connecticut, if I remember correctly. We also have performances from Revolution, which has been performed in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Connecticut, and Vermont. And we have a performance from Green Zone, which we're very happy to dedicate some significant audio production time to this summer. And we'll be releasing all of Green Zone on Black Revolutionary Media this summer. And of course, we'll end with a community conversation with our speaker, Samantha Davis. Tonight, I'm very happy to welcome the talents of Cassignol Leonidas Jr., Miyako Gavia, Jasmine Boone, Tim Craig, Donnell Cole Price. And as always, we also have some amazing artists who are working behind the scenes to bring this work to you, including Kira DeCoudre, who is our amazing live stream producer, and Ran Shia, our wonderful audio producer, and of course, Dena Agusti, who is the newest member of the BRTW team. They are an emerging South Asian cultural artist. They are a poet, they're a playwright, they're an activist, and now they are our line producer, and we're very excited to have them on board. And with that, I am happy to turn it over to Donnell Cole Price to introduce the first show.
Scene 5 from After Swarm by Miyako Gavia. Read by Jasmine, reading Essence, Castanal, reading Kita, Miyako, reading Gigi, Donnell, reading Stage Directions. Dawn, the island is under heavy rainfall and everyone is inside. Essence, Gigi, and Kita play cards in the main room.
Uno, bitches!
Are you fucking kidding me?
Nope, I'm gonna own your ass today.
This game isn't fair.
That's you? You wouldn't be complaining if I wasn't about to smoke you.
Yeah, you thought skip, draw 2, while draw 4, Uno, out. Yeah, don't fuck with the scales at uno, little sis. Habla teeth in more ways than one. Now run me my ducats.
I don't want to play anymore until we get real Uno deck. I don't trust these homemade GG cards.
Excuse you? Y'all were rolling dice with rocks before I decided to make these cards.
Stop being a sore loser and pay up.
Essence and Gigi dig around in their pockets for change. Rain drips on Essence's head.
Ew, it's slimy.
Another leak? Shit, hold on. I really need to fix this damn roof.
She gets up and grabs a bucket to catch raindrops and a cloth to wipe Essence's head. She sits down and the bucket begins to pat down Essence's braids.
You're not going up there. We're lucky the ceiling hasn't collapsed already. Hopefully it'll hold until we get out of here.
Until you get out of here, I'm staying, remember? So I'll have to fix it somehow. The roof's not gonna last another storm.
But what about when the island gets invaded?
It's already been invaded. Y'all invaded it, remember?
You know what I mean.
I guess when the Oathies came looking, she can huff and puff and collapse this whole place on top of them.
Hardy har har. Keep playing and I'll collapse it on top of all of you.
Essie, how long does it take for you to find 2 fucking quarters?
As Essence places her coins on the table, some weed falls out of her pocket.
You could give me some of that.
Really? You're not gonna throw it out, are you?
Keita snatches a joint, begins to whirl it expertly.
I thought you didn't smoke.
I don't, but tonight's an exception.
Why?
It might be the last time we sit together like this. Big brother is here, and once he ain't ever leave that room.
Yeah, that'll be a while.
Essence pinches her harshly on the arm.
Ouch!
I'm just saying things are gonna change.
So you're saying we should?
Yeah. Just this once. Why not?
Lights up on Keita, Essence, and Gigi. They are high, and Gigi is busy braiding Essence's hair. Essence is holding, smoking the joint. Gigi becomes interested in something across the room.
Hey, Keita.
Yeah?
Look, it's a roach.
Nah, man. Don't show me that shit.
Aw, are you scared of an insect?
I'm not scared. There were bigger ones at my aunt's house in Brooklyn. We used to turn on the light and they all scatter. But one went in my mouth once when I was sleeping, right? And ever since that, I just, you know what I mean?
Oh, poor baby.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, the joint's gone out again. Let me go get a match.
She darts off stage.
Well, hurry up and bring me back some Spam.
Fuck. Damn, I'm so high. Shit, I haven't smoked in ages.
Big boy like you? I wouldn't have pegged you for a lightweight.
Smoking is a deviation in the nest.
Seems like everything is a deviation in the nest.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I didn't remember being like this in the beginning. Even later, when Essence was first paired with me, it was fine. She was actually kind of chill back then. Hell, I was way more chill back then.
You? Essence? That I refuse to believe. A chill Essence. That's kind of creepy.
None of us really expected it to get this hard by the end. It was a community organization at first, right? State of the art, woke ass fuck, got everyone who needed one jobs. They booked drive. They did book drives and organize events. The whole works.
I know. Right before your violent little coup caught on, I thought the nest was actually kind of interesting.
But not interesting enough to come to a meeting.
I don't like crowds or yelling. Too chaotic.
They were really structured. Actually, Kia and I used to love it. The energy was on a whole nother level. No matter how shit your day was, you could go to a meeting, listen to Big Brother speak, gotta get a good dinner, go home feeling the strength of your principle humming in your bones.
He had it like that, huh?
Yeah, he had it like that.
Makes sense why the white folks want him dead.
Hmm.
Charisma up the ass and a dangerous theology. For you all's sake, I hoped he'd never come back.
Yep.
What?
What?
Essence enters.
Hey, Kita,
She holds up the joint.
it's a roach.
Stop playing. Yo, look, I can't stand y'all, man.
Shit. You guys, I just passed Colton.
Wait, what? What's he doing down here?
I don't know, going to the bathroom. I didn't want him smelling weed on me, so I hid.
All right, we shouldn't be slacking off like this. We should be on patrol.
Relax. Eva told us we can wait until the rain lets up. You're so uptight, Kita.
Essence lights the joint and plops down in front of Gigi, who quickly becomes absorbed in Essence's hair.
Oh my god, girl, your hair has gotten freaking long.
No, I've been putting in that arrow root.
No, I mean, since I met you, it was short and brittle, and now it's so long, like Rapunzel.
Quit playing.
Seriously, or as you New Yorkers say, dead ass, B.
Essence rolls her eyes and tries to pass Kita the joint. He's staring off into space and doesn't notice her.
Hey, Kita,
Huh? What?
what's it like to kill somebody?
If you're lucky, you'll never have to find out.
I have to move up the scale. There's only so much more I can do without blood tithing into scale 4.
I see.
I'm not a kid, Kita. The pigs could wash up on shore anytime, and I need to be ready to fight. And
I said no. I see.
fine. I'll just ask Big Brother when he comes out, and we can...
Maybe we should talk about something else.
No. She's been bugging me about this for too long. You want to know? I see. Fine. Look. So Kia and I lived upstate, but by our closest nest chapter was in Woodland, right? We got the call to head in for a meeting, so we called a cab to the train, hopped the turnstile and got on the 4, but I guess someone noticed us. We got on the empty train, and then all of a sudden, these skinheads entered the car and started gunning for us. I wasn't quick back then. I couldn't scrap, but I was nothing special. But Kia was built for this shit. She's been sticking up for me since I was a skinny-ass 4-year-old. Had amazing reflexes. And as soon as they threw the first punch, she went into Hulk mode, started swinging like a pro before I even got to my feet. So she took down the first guy on one of her one punch, but then the other skinhead clocked her from behind. She had her head on the pole on the train, and she was lying there, not moving, and I just lost it. Killing someone feels like releasing this pressure. It builds and builds and builds all your life, but by the snows and the pigs on your, or even your own kin who try to deviate. And then finally you start hitting someone in self-defense, and on the first punch, that pressure valve bursts and you can't stop hitting him because that snow hurt your sister. That snow is the reason your natural state is fucked up. That snow is saying, get off, you fucking nigga, until you punch his teeth in, and you just keep hearing him long after he stops speaking. You keep hearing, you fucking nigga, ringing in your ears until he stops looking like a person anymore. You hear the voices, all of the snow saying, you fucking, until you realize he stopped breathing. And you realize what you've done. Then you look at the guy, and he's gone. He's done. It's over. And the only pressure you feel, the only thing you hear is your heartbeat in your ears. It's quiet. Before things sink in, it's all quiet. And that's how much you move up on the scale.
He drops the joint, grinds it into the dirt with his foot. The rain has stopped. He exits abruptly. End of scene.
Thank you to our wonderful cast and our playwright. That was written by Miyako Gavia, part of a larger play called After Swarm. And thank you to our wonderful cast, Cassignol Leonidas Jr., Jasmine Boone, and the playwright herself, Miyako Gavia, and Donnell Cole Price, who is reading stage directions. This next piece is called Fractal. It's also from a larger piece that BRTW premiered called Revolution.
Fractal by H. Harvey. Players: Raquel, a Black woman, mid-late 30s, read by Jasmine. Lila, white woman, mid-late 30s, read by Miyako. Colton, a Black charismatic community leader, read by Castanol Leonatus Jr. Stage directions, read by Donnell Cole Price. Colton stands at the center of a growing crowd in Fort Greene Park. A growing police presence threatens to press in. Colton's followers stand ominously poised between them and the man at the center of several streaming phones.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colton J. Baker. Maybe you heard my name. Maybe you like my work. My promise is to Black America get reparation by any means necessary. Maybe you like the Nest, the community I've built to secure freedom, equity, and respect for every Black person in America. Or maybe you've just joined me out here in a neighborhood that used to look like us for the same reason I am, because I'm pissed. I'm pissed at this blue wall of bullshit for dehumanizing, incarcerating, and murdering Black people. I'm pissed at this country for making us weather a pandemic while urging us to breathe contaminated air for its capitalist interest at the same time. I'm pissed at the pharmaceutical companies getting rich off of our own pain and suffering, and the oil barons for choking children I ain't even had yet. I'm pissed at you for voting for evil, the lesser evil and the lesser evil. And I'm pissed at me for not having the backbone to die for a better tomorrow, because what the fuck is the point for today? I'm pissed, but I'm not hopeless. I got $2 in my pocket and more debt than credit to my name, but I roll deep in community. Set, a collective, nation, or force of Blackness. Nest, brothers and sisters, is refuge. Nest is freedom. Nest is home. Nest reaches deep down into your brokenness, sister, your brokenness, brother, your suffering, and reminds you that you are a force to be reckoned with. Nest will build you back up when the world outside is done beating you down. Nest will crown you kings and queens, even as white supremacy tries to make you a slave. And when the time comes, Nest will be on the front lines, restoring to you everything that white supremacy took and continues to take. That time is coming. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. We've got the manpower, the resources, and the want to. And we've got it now. A new day starts in Brooklyn, post haste. All you have to do is come home.
A couple watching TV wrapped.
That guy I've been telling you about.
Lila stands nervously, then pretends to go about her day as usual.
Well, he's certainly charismatic.
Yeah, he gets it. He really, really gets it.
Would you like a granola bar?
I gave you his book,
Remember what Dr. Brenton said.
the one with the eye symbol on the cover.
You should eat before your morning coffee.
What did you think?
He said you need fiber in the mornings.
fiber.
And protein. Breakfast, gal. It's the most important meal of the day.
This isn't a normal day.
Yes, it is.
Lila, I'm going to Brooklyn tonight.
Don't be silly. It's been a tense couple of years, but I'll call Donna and Greg over and order a pizza, and we'll get a phone bank going.
We can't keep trying the same things over and over. It's literally insanity.
We'll agitate to your heart's content.
How many times have we emailed those petitions?
Everyone can appreciate your passion for these causes.
And voted for the lesser evil.
But this kind of talk might scare the neighbors.
And stood outside in the freezing cold.
And it's not like your radical ideas have been exactly welcome around the water cooler.
Fuck them!
Hell, there's a line. And you don't always seem too clear on where it is, but whatever's happening in Brooklyn tonight is on the other side of it.
It's like Colton said, we can't win playing by their rules.
The whole spectacle isn't for us. Those people are going to get arrested.
Yeah, that might be how it starts.
Why don't we play hooky and go away for the weekend? I'll call in sick for you, and we'll drive out to the Poconos.
The revolution is practically on your doorstep, and you want to run away to the Poconos?
Do you hear yourself? Revolution? People like my father and your boss and our neighbors will be afraid tonight. Of course I want to run away.
People like your father and my boss and our neighbors are exactly why we're in this mess.
Oh, so now you'll do what? Run to Brooklyn to fight the man?
You could join me.
Do you remember when we bought this house together? How people stared at us?
I remember all that.
The eggings, and when they keyed our car.
Lila.
They hated us. And those people hate me.
They don't hate you.
They hate white people.
They hate white supremacy. So do I. So do you.
This is not the time for semantics. They are talking about violence. Real life, knives and guns, violence. And you're waxing rhapsodic about the man with his finger on the trigger.
So it's violent when it's about Black people. But whatever the cops were doing to those kids who egged our house wasn't going to be violent?
It's not the same thing.
You're right. It's not the same thing, because we can wash the vandalism off our house and no one will ask any questions about the nice white lady inside. But what about the scary Black one?
That's not fair.
They think I'm your fucking roommate.
We agreed that it was better to...
No, you agreed that you could get away with a white girlfriend or a Black friend, and we both know why. Because we are not the same. But tonight is my chance.
Are you serious? You went to college, traveled, got married. We own a co-op and a fucking Subaru. There are white people who suffered more.
Oh, fuck you.
Seriously. My family came here with nothing and built a chance for themselves and their children. They made a way, and your family did the same. And here we are, accomplished. What's actually so bad that would justify this nonsense?
Your family came here with nothing? Not a few generations of contacts established here? Not a common language? Not a family business and a family home ready-made for them? Because last time I checked, my family's coming to America story started without any of that shit. White people have built this country into a system that gives you so many benefits, you think it's the same thing as starting with nothing. But when there are too many Black people around, you just pull the strings and move us out of the way onto plantations, in prisons, in ghettos, or graves. And then you judge us for not having the same polish when we finally get where you are. The history of Black skin in America is moving from white use to white disposal. I'm not waiting around to be thrown away. I'm going tonight to put power in Black hands.
You're going to lose.
I know.
A moment, Raquel stands and leaves. Lila stands, throws the nearest object against a wall, crumbles. She takes out her phone and dials. The sounds of revolution are already mounting outside.
Hey, Daddy? I need to come home.
End.
Thank you so much to our marvelous cast, Mia Kogavia and Jasmine Boone and Donnell Cole Price on stage directions. Our final piece of the evening comes from Green Zone. And with that, I'd be remiss if I forgot to add a plug for our podcast, which not only features pieces from Melanated Mondays, but also highlights the work of another program, Revolution Now, where we support emerging playwrights, give them dramaturgical and directorial support, and give them a full production of original full-length pieces on our podcast, Black Revolutionary Media, that is available on all the podcatchers. And with that, I will turn it over to Jasmine.
Green Zone, Terms and Conditions by H. Harvey. Read by Fenton, Tim Craig, Vern, Casanos Leonidas Jr., P.A. Mary, Mia Kogavia. Stage directions, Jasmine Boone. Establishing shot. A sweaty, brown-skinned nape. Beneath the thin layer of skin, a green light briefly shines bright and then fades. We zoom out to reveal mostly people, mostly men and mostly of color, doing hard labor on an assembly line. They wipe their brows and peel sticky clothes from sweaty skin. Cut to a digital clock. It flashes 11:58.
Congratulations! All vital indicators have remained at workstations. Gain a 1% teamwork performance bonus by remaining at workstations. Give 3% of your pre-bonus daily wages for energy boost to work 4 times your hours.
Here it comes.
The group gleefully leaves their work, gathering around the bright yellow taped outline surrounding a massive pipe. It rattles from within as a fan roars to life. Beneath the skin at their napes, sensors blink blue light and emit a gentle chirp as they luxuriate in the brief blast of cool air. Cut to a woman, Mary, taking grateful gulps of air. Her skirt plastered to her skin with sweat. She wears a watch emitting similar sensor. She pushes through the crowd to approach the fan. Chirps turn to more insistent beeps as sensors turn orange. Laborers return to their stations. Mary lingers near the fan.
Mary? Mary? You all right?
Just need the air.
Don't bother. Trust me. Leave it alone. She's a
Are-
believer.
Are they gonna stop or anything?
100,000% organic human meat. No biotech. If the heat exhaustion doesn't get her, management will.
Mary's sensor begins blinking red. It beeps more incessant and gathering speed.
Hey!
I just...
She takes greedier breaths, swaying on her feet dangerously close to the fan. Fenton rushes to Mary and drags her back to her station, slamming her hand down on a button. He runs past her to his own station, pressing his own button. Vern shakes his head.
Airplane rules, man.
What?
You can't save them before you can save yourself.
Cut to an absurdly small apartment. Fenton enters, his door slamming against his futon.
Welcome home, Fenton.
10. Fin 10.
Ha 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 ha! You are funny, Fenton. Daily update. You have 90 minutes to achieve REM sleep to reach optimal rest for optimum performance tomorrow. iBio Industries has issued your daily wage to your bank account. After your debits, rent, taxes, and lifestyle expenses, you have negative 273,543 credits. Congratulations, Fenton. You may review this information and more after a short commercial break.
Skip.
10 credits to skip. You do not have 10 credits to skip. Beginning welcome home pre-roll.
He opens his cabinet-sized refrigerator and sees shelves filled with containers similar to cup of noodles. He opens one, smells it, and nearly retches. Coughs violently.
Please hold your medical emergency until after the commercial break. Yeah! Take your dick pic to the next level with crotch rockets. These aren't your granddad's dick pills. Get shredded from scrot to tip with crotch rockets extreme.
Fenton fills his container with cloudy speckled water before placing it in a microwave.
You're a bitch. Get energized and work like a man with energy boost. Energy boost will get you shredded with a metabolism boosting, fatigue annihilating formula. Work your way to wealth and sleep when you are rich, big dicked. And your steak inspired gruel is ready for consumption. Yeah! Get swole! Earn more with Energy Boost!
Fenton eats his meal as the ads continue in the background until, finally, silence.
And you have 5 minutes to achieve REM sleep to reach optimal rest for optimum performance tomorrow.
Thanks.
You're welcome, Fenton.
He fights to unfold his futon. It gets nearly flat. He lays down with a grunt. The back of the futon pops back into place.
Would you like to see ads for a new couch, Fenton?
No, no, thank you.
15 credits to edit advertisement update algorithm. You do not have 15 credits to edit advertisement update algorithm. Updating advertising preferences.
Cut to the next morning. Fenton shuffles into work with several other overtired workers. There's a large group gathered around a new poster. Fenton finds Vern.
You see this shit? I can't afford upgrades. I'm already in so much debt I'll be working the rest of my life.
Fenton looks at the poster. It reads, minimum biotech requirements to maintain employment.
Where's Mary?
Oh yeah, she's fucked.
Give 3% of your daily wage for Energy Boost. To work 4 times your daily hours. Give 30% of your annual wage for biotech upgrade. Contract amendments may be required.
As Fenton clocks in, his subdermal sensor blinks green with a welcome chime. Montage of laborers working, wiping sweat from their brows, fanning their chests with their sticky shirts. Cut to a digital clock. It shows 11:53. Cut to Mary entering, looking worse for wear. Her wrist is bare, and a subdermal sensor blinks beneath her skin. She goes to her station, but does not begin working.
Mary?
Mary wipes the skin at the back of her neck, and her hand comes back with blood. She shrieks at the sight. Work instantly stops, and the laborer's sensors blink blue, chimes filling the space. Everyone returns their focus to their work except for Mary, who begins hyperventilating as she throws her arms into the air. She prays fervently. Fenton hesitantly approaches Mary.
Fenton! Fenton! Airplane rules, man.
Fenton looks at Mary, but returns to his station. Mary stares at the laborers who avert their gaze.
Our bodies are our temples, and the temples have been defiled. Our bodies are our temples, and the temples have been defiled.
I told you, man, believers. Smart Money says she doesn't even last the next week.
We can take our temples back.
He rushes towards the fan.
Only then can we render unto him what is his. We must choose. I choose him.
Fenton steps away from his station, rushing towards Mary.
Fenton!
Mary disappears into the pipe, and a moment later, it stirs to life. The undeniable sound of slicing flesh echoes from within. Fenton stares into the pipe, his mouth agape.
Hey, come on, man. Just focus on the work.
Fenton's sensor chimes, and he gives in to Vern, allowing him to lead him back to his station. Cut to the digital clock. The time blinks 16:59. It turns to 1700. Overhead, the laborers work as a pool of blood congeals beside the fan.
Floor performance, 1% bonus. All vital indicators remained at workstations throughout the workday. Give 3% of your pre-bonus daily wages for Energy Boost to work 4 times your hours.
The gore remains. Some laborers peel away from their workstations. Others run past the blood. Some stop and stare.
Fuck this. Energy Boost.
Vern touches his nape and jolts. He returns his attention to his work with intense focus. Fenton stares at the crowd growing round the fan and looks down at his hand. There's blood on it. He lifts it to the back of his neck.
Energy boost.
Close up, his pupils widen until his iris is nearly consumed by vacant blackness. Montage. Workers obsessively focus on their work as orange-clad janitorial staff dart from workstation to workstation, emptying buckets of waste. 2 quick to tackle the gore near the fan. One of them passes out. Everyone else continues working. Cut to the digital clock strikes 1. Montage continues. Cut to the digital clock strikes 9. Montage continues. The digital clock strikes 16:59. Cut to Fenton's face. His pupils shrink rapidly, and we instantly see the exhaustion consume him.
Give 3% of your pre-bonus daily out wages for energy boost to work 4 times your hours.
Cut to Fenton's tiny apartment. The door slams against his couch.
Welcome home, Fenton.
Fuck you.
Ah ha 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 ha. You are funny, Fenton. Daily update. You have 90 minutes to
Nah, skip.
5 credits to skip. You do not have the 5 credits to skip.
Override.
Accept additional 5 credit fee to existing iBio debt.
Yes.
Beginning welcome home pre-roll.
Skip.
10 credits to skip. You do not have the 10 credits to skip.
Override. I accept the charges on my existing debt.
No further announcements.
Fenton wrestles with his futon to get it flat. He collapses on it gratefully. A moment. The back pops up. We hear a deep snore. Cut to the next morning. Fenton, still exhausted, shuffles to his station beside Vern.
Morning. Vern? I said morning.
Fenton looks closely at Vern. His irises are nearly consumed by his pupils. Fenton shakes his head and clocks in. He begins working, but the exhaustion wears on him. He glances to the clock on the wall. Cut to the digital clock. It reads 9:07.
Energy boost.
Close up, Fenton's irises swell. We zoom into his eyes and zoom back out. He sways on his feet, wrenches, vomits violently. He looks up. Cut to the digital clock. It reads 9:07. Fenton looks around. Some of the laborers eye him wearily, but most focus on their work. He looks to his left, but Vern isn't there. He looks down. Vern is unconscious on the floor. Fenton's eyes begin to roll in the back of his head. He touches his nape.
Energy boost.
Close up, Fenton's irises swell. We zoom into his eyes and zoom back out. Fenton wipes his now bloodshot eyes. He sways and passes out. Camera fades to black. We hear insistent beeping. The camera fades back into focus, swirling around Fenton. His sensor is blinking red, and his coworkers are staring at him. He stands, falters, and passes out again. Camera goes black. In brief snatches of focus, we see the other laborers spill out. The orange-clad janitorial staff enter and carry Fenton out. Fenton comes to in an alley surrounded by other listless laborers. On the sidewalk, passerbys glance over with disdain. Some of the laborers around him are dead, literally rotting. Some are ill, some are unconscious. He spots Vern amongst the pile.
Vern? Vern!
Energy boost.
Vern wrenches, but has nothing left to vomit.
You are not employees in good standing with iBio Industries. You may not take advantage of benefits such as energy boost, contract housing, medical benefits, and food-inspired gruel. Improve your performance by 350% to reinstate employee benefits with minimal negligence fees.
Energy boost.
You are not employees in good standing with iBio Industries.
Let me back in. I want to work.
He bangs on the doors.
It must be been an allergic reaction or something.
Please hold your medical emergency. You are not employees in good standing with iBio Industries. You may not take advantage of benefits.
Cut to an office overlooking the pile of ravaged bodies below. A black man signs a contract.
Thanks, Mr. Cook.
I can't wait to get started. The new guy leaves the office and joins a long line of people, mostly men and mostly of color. Please
Please move forward in an orderly fashion. Step to the left to give 30% of your annual wages for iBio sensor upgrade. New contractors, step to the right for new iBio sensor implant.
The line continues to shuffle forward as a fleet of orange-clad janitorial staff burst in and reveal a small glimpse of the factory as they rush off to address another emergency. End of webisode.
Thank you to our wonderful cast, Cassignol Leonidas Jr., Mia Kogavia, Tim Craig, Jasmine Boone, and Donnell Cole Price. I also want to give a special thanks to Kira DeCoudre, Ranchia, and Dena Augusti for all of their work behind the scenes. And now, of course, it is that time where we switch gears from the performance side of things to the community conversation. So if, for example, you happen to miss the first couple of minutes, we're extremely grateful to Samantha Davis for joining us for this month's Melanated Mondays. Samantha is a scholar and educator whose work at the intersection of Africana studies and politics deeply resonates with our work here at BRTW. Samantha, thank you so much for your time. Feel invited to add on to this introduction, and we'd also love to know what inspired you to pursue this line of work.
Thank you to everybody for having me. It's been such a pleasure to be spending the afternoon and evening with all of you. What led me to this work? So my dissertation research started in it's the culmination of a path that I started out in early in my graduate school career, because I found, I always had an interest in the history of ideas and revolution. But what I found is that in political science, especially, there was a lack of engagement with Black thinkers and the lives and actions of Black people. So in order to get that, I had to kind of create my own research program looking at Black thinkers and writers and scholars. And that led me to, my interest in revolution is connected to an interest in creating new foundations. And at first I was really interested in the founding period in the US and Black abolitionist revolutionary constitutionalism, which greatly influenced the Civil War amendments and the refounding efforts during Reconstruction. And the Age of Revolution sets off with the War of Independence in 1776, followed by the French Revolution in 1789. And now most scholars would also include the Haitian Revolution in their studies of this era. And CLR James and the Black Jacobins, which I have right here, if you could see that. It's a wonderful text. CLR James and the Black Jacobins is responsible for people actually including the Haitian Revolution in this whole idea of the age of revolutions in the 18th and 19th century. So the Black Jacobins was my entry into the work of CLR James and fundamentally charted my research agenda, which centers around the Haitian Revolution and Black politics.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if you caught me cheesing over here. I'm just so excited not only to have your time and expertise, but it's so rare that we have the opportunity to welcome a speaker who can speak to BRTW's political, intellectual, and artistic heritage. So I want to really seize this opportunity to highlight CLR James, who amongst other things for audiences who may not be aware, he was a Marxist journalist, a historian, and a playwright who famously worked with Paul Robeson and even had 2 plays premiere in London's West End about the Haitian Revolution. For our audiences at home who may not be so familiar with CLR James's work, would you share some details about him and your scholarly interest in his legacy?
Yes, it's so rich. I mean, he lived until the age of 88 and really spoke about all of the world historical movements in the 20th century. So his work is an astounding resource for folks who are interested in revolution, but maybe even more just kind of elementally interested in societal transformation. And CLR James gives us so much inspiration. He gives us hope, and he gives us, in a lot of his character studies, Black Jacobins, one way of looking at it is as a character study of Toussaint Louverture. Many of his other works, he did some pieces on Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. So he does these character studies of leaders of revolutions to try to highlight some of some of what we might be faced with, some of the problems that need to be overcome. So not only is it inspiration, but it's almost, he provides us warnings for the paths ahead. So it's really important to look at that, because CLR James he follows the Marxist line of thinking that history itself is like its own motor of change. And the director of the motor of change are the people, the masses themselves. So, among classic Marxist scholars, Black people weren't included. Black people weren't seen as being capable of being drivers of history in this sense. And I think CLR James changes that whole game. He makes that irrefutable. And I mean, now I think most scholars would accept that. Most scholars now would note Black contributions and critiques of these movements from the very beginning.
Thank you so much for that. For our audiences at home, chances are those who joined us before the pandemic anyway probably found out about us because of our show Revolution. And revolution is a recurring theme in BRTW's professionally staged work. And we've now written and debuted 2 original pieces with all Black casts that explore a potential modern day Black revolution in the States. It's a very fruitful recurring theme for us. I am sure we're going to return to that subject matter at some point. Your bio mentions that you're working on a project about the Atlantic Age of Revolutions. First, and I really appreciated that you began unpacking some of that in your introduction, but can you share more about when and what this was? And second, what was the impact of the Atlantic Age of Revolutions in later political thought and movements? And what's the impact now?
Great. Yeah, the Age of Revolutions describes the waves of revolutionary movements in the 18th and 19th centuries, beginning with the War of Independence in the United States. And you'll know, I'm not calling it the American Revolution, because especially coming from my perspective, I think that we really only see that in the Civil War. So I kind of subscribe to calling it the War of Independence as a result. But then it's followed by the French Revolution in 1789 and the Haitian Revolution in 1791. And all of those participants in those movements were inspired by and reading the work of the people who were, operating in the United States and in France and in Haiti. I mean, it can't be ignored that the French revolutionaries were also paying really close attention to what was happening during the Haitian Revolution. So, and part of what marks that engagement is what we see on the other side of these revolutions, because as we know, the qualitative success of any of these revolutions are questionable. And what we found as a result was a really robust counter-revolution that fostered imperialism, new forms of oppression, and different ways of restricting the freedom that was just newly gained for the folks. So I think it's important to know that all of the things that we do in our efforts to make society better, there is always somebody watching and changing their methods to restrict the possibilities of us achieving those ends and succeeding. So, being really being conscious of that is something that CLR James really focuses on throughout his work. But I guess I didn't even talk about how those things influence where we are now. Because I mean, the age of revolutions, it's interesting to be talking about the age of revolutions in this moment that we're currently living in, because all of those were movements of democracy formation in these spaces. And now we're living in a time where we are being challenged by efforts at dismantling our democracy and installing some kind of autocratic, totalitarian form of government. So it's no better time than now than to reflect again and more deeply on what it is that we want to replace all of these structures, these oppressive structures, all of these systems and institutions that we have created that no longer work for us. What do we want to replace them with? And I think there's lots of lessons and resources from Black people throughout the age of revolutions, and see how it continues with decolonization movements in the 20th century onto today.
Thank you for that wonderful answer. And I want to turn to our community of artists. And we're grateful so much that you all decided to stick on with us for this portion of the programming. We know that revolution can take many forms, but ultimately it's a powerful endeavor toward a significant change. As with many industries and communities, the arts and culture sector has not only suffered during the pandemic, but simultaneously faced multiple attempted reckonings to account for inequitable practices to varying degrees of success. What revolution or revolutions do we need, and toward what ends? And I'd love to just go around, and Castagnol, can we start with you?
Well, thank you, Heather, and thank you, Ms. Davis, for being here. Like, firstly, I like to begin by saying that I know very little of CLR James. My dad actually had a copy of the Black Jacobins, and actually haven't read it yet. But I did read a play titled Tu Som Levichu, the one that Paul Robeson played as Tu Som Levichu, written by CLR James. So that was amazing. In terms of revolution, I like to answer that with my thoughts, and also like ask a direct question to Miss Davis as well. I think us as artists, we have the power to impact history in a way that is very unique, and almost private. So I feel when we're in the right space with the right group of people that also see this mission, we have that opportunity to foster such impact, and even bring that awareness to an audience that can also like add that ripple effect to continue and further that mission. And it's very brave, and I think that the question that's on my mind is probably wondering if it takes an individual like Toussaint Louverture or Jean-Jacques Dessalines or another Malcolm X or Dr. King or a large party of revolutionists. I'm thinking in my head maybe like the community group like the Black Panther Party and other groups of that they collaborated with in the different factions. Like Ms. Davis, do you see like I guess the trend moving from more individualism to like more like group efforts, especially like Black Lives Matter for our times right now?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's one of the lessons coming out of folks like CLR James, because it's really a critique of leaders. At the end of his life, he was talking about how he would have changed Black Jacobins, because he came out with a book in the 1930s, and then he came out with a revised edition where he added a couple of chapters to address what was happening in the 60s. And people would ask him in the 80s, like, if you were to do that again, what would you do? And every single time he would say, I would not focus on leaders anymore. I would focus on what the masses were saying and doing, because they had very different ideas of what the freedom was that they were fighting for than what Toussaint did. So, because of that, a whole host of folks are trying to look at ways to think of leaderless revolutions and acknowledge the fact that revolutions come from the communities. So we need to stay with the communities in our reflections on them and in our efforts. It's not just an individual, and it's not just leaders. Leaders are important, they're necessary, but they're not the end all be all. We're not just waiting for a leader to come out and like, oh, we're waiting for you. CLR James tells us and warns us that that's not the way to go.
Miyako, can I throw it to you?
Yeah, can you restate the question, please?
Yep. Uh, I'm picking up from the end of it.
That's okay.
The arts and culture sector has also been impacted by the pandemic, but of course, it's also faced multiple attempted reckonings to account for inequitable practices.
Mhm.
What revolution or revolutions do we need, and toward what ends?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we need um more collective action, and we need to put power in the hands of arts and culture workers back in the hands of the workers themselves. Um, I know that there has started to be a change in, for example, the equity structure for actors, for theater actors, and I think it's stage managers as well. Um, During the pandemic, they changed the equity rules to make it a lot more accessible for more people to join the union. um they kind of changed the rules, so who was eligible to join the union became a lot more accessible to people, and they did that specifically so that actors of color and other marginalized actors would have more would have a chance to join the union, because like one of the ways you join the union is to be cast. The main way that you join the Actors Equity Association is to be cast in a show. But if there are fewer roles for actors of color, for disabled actors, then your chances of becoming part of the union are a lot slimmer. Um, so so they changed the rules to allow more people to join the union. Now it's if you've been in a professional production that has paid you, you provide evidence of that, and then you are allowed to join the union. The cost aspect is still quite prohibitive. I've joined the union in this way, and I'm still paying this off in like a payment plan, and I should be finished paying it off by the end of the year, early next year, but it's still quite a lot. And I was only able to maintain that because of, make this investment because of the student loan pause. So like, that stuff builds off of each other. So I think that allowing more people to join collective action in various aspects of art and culture, and making that not only accessible to apply, accessible to join, but accessible financially to be a part of, and having different ways of, talking with members, organizing with members, organizing for pay, stuff like that. We want a real ground up structure rather than top down.
Tim, I see you're unmuted. Can I call on you next?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think as Miyako stated, kind of the underlying, um, uh, she really points out uh, how institutions of the past continue to use kind of these band-aids. For me in the arts world, they kind of continue to use these band-aids that I feel like have been cycles over time, and they're not actually applying a lot of procedures and policy that these leaders, that Samantha Davis have kind of implemented over time, which is the catalyst for actually receiving this actual change. I have hope for it, but it just seems like we kind of continue to kind of go in these cycles using these oppressive systems to kind of create this oppressive change. Not to kind of veer things off too much, but I would like to say, first of all, thank you so much, Ms. Davis, for being here this evening. My name is Timothy. I'm co-artistic director at BRTW. And I just kind of wanted to say, like learning more about you and understanding your studies and your intent has been really fascinating, and also really rare for me. And so it's like such a pleasure to know that there are people like you that exist and that are fervently studying past and creating new ways to and teaching the youth these new ideologies and understanding. Like I will be the first to admit that I was not very familiar with C.L.R. James, and I'm looking to educate myself even more. And I think from that, and I hesitate to say ignorance, but that's what it is. what do you want ultimately from your gigantic studies? What do you want to give to the people that you are educating? I guess, not to put it to a too much of a linear span, but maybe 10 years or 20 years from now, what is the kind of the birth of thought that you want to kind of give to all of us when it comes to the history of quote unquote socialism and particularly when it comes to our Black identity and our Black community, uh, if that's as specific as I can get.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that my work would be a part of, there's a whole lot of us out here that are trying to do this kind of good work, but I want to make sure that people understand how central Black folks have been to these, theoretical, philosophical discussions. We need to not only broaden our idea of what political theory and philosophy is, but more importantly, who's doing it and what do they bring? They are contributing to this. They're not just engaging with it, they're not just taking something for themselves, they are contributing to these forms of socialism, Marxism. I think my Black Marxism book is in the other room, but these are foundational for all of us. And especially I teach a lot of courses in American political thought. And that's one of my main things there, is making sure people understand that, I mean, at least for me, most of the things, the best parts of what I think of when I think of American political thought comes from Black people and out of Black communities. So I want people to understand that, a lot of the ideals and values that the United States claims to hold are really found in Black American thinkers, and I want them and their contributions to be central to these conversations. Like, and a side note, historically thinking of the social contract, people think of that as some dead idea that old white European guys came up with. And, I want to envision folks like Frederick Douglass, Du Bois, like these are people that are engaging with the social contract. They're trying to understand what our relationship as individuals, our rights, our freedoms should be with the community. And I think those are important conversations to have. And I think we're always having those discussions about what the social contract is. And I think that's important to continue to do.
Thank you so much. You are certainly a leader in that regard, and I thank you for your work and your continued work.
Thank you. I also want to hear from Donnell if you have any thoughts about what revolution or revolutions do we need in the arts and culture sector, and toward what end?
Yeah, hello again, everyone, and hello, Samantha, for joining us. I don't really have too much to add, just a few kind of words. I think that we should continue, and Samantha kind of touched on this just a little bit, the conversations amongst the leaders and the community. Sometimes it's like that little barrier that's there. I feel like sometimes we just got to kind of get back to the basics and just continue to have those conversations and let some of those other invisible boundaries go to figure out what it is that we need, want, has happened, and what we want for our future. I see it in so many different lines of business and work and whatever. I'm just like, it's almost like sometimes the community can lose their confidence a little bit because they might not be able to fully relate to what the leaders are trying to push forth. And I feel like if we let those barriers go just a little bit, get back to the basics, I think we can keep the ball continuous to move.
Thank you for that, Donnell. I would just add to this. I'm similar to Miyako in my thinking about revolution in the context of arts and culture. I think about it generally from a labor perspective first, and a collective action perspective. One thing that deeply concerns me is that we have now had 2-ish years of a bunch of people, writing their essays about how much they care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. and supposedly interrogating the structure, shifting these structures, and we've seen some movement forward, but ultimately it defaults to a similar pattern that says this culture, this arts and culture sector only works when we use systems of gatekeeping, when we use strategic systems of gatekeeping that identify people who have demonstrated an ability to perform in the white privilege and white proximity Olympics enough that they deserve to be treated well. That's bullshit, and we need to undo that within our sector. Whether it's the privatizing of access to being treated well as an actor by means of whether or not you can afford access to Actors Equity, whether it's privatizing access to a rehearsal room because you happen to be a member of the Dramatists Guild, whether it's privatizing access to the ability to negotiate your contract because someone respects you enough not to just choose the next 5 people down the way on the list. We need to disrupt the standard that this is an appropriate way to treat the laboring class. Next, we need to identify the fact that arts and culture workers are members of the laboring class. We are not just out here doing this for funsies. Yes, I get a lot out of writing, but if I just got a lot out of writing, I'd keep that shit to myself. Instead, I have to learn how to understand a contract when I'm doing a commission, and those aren't fun. That's not the cool part of writing. So if I'm out here moonlighting as a bullshit lawyer so that I can make sure I can pay my bills, and then it's standardized throughout the entire sector that I'm not even going to get paid for 6 months, we have a problem. And that problem doesn't, by the way, just happen to affect the handful of people in New York City who are more likely than not to be beneath the, the sustainability standard of income, who are more likely to be working 2 and 3 jobs, who are more likely to have one of those second and third jobs also be jobs that make them frontline workers. This is a problem that also affects New York City's ability to make a lot of money on its tourism industry. Arts and culture is a massive part of how New York City appeals to tourists. It's a massive part of how it gets people on the Upper West Side to get on a train to go to the new Disneyland, also known as Broadway. So y'all should respect our work. I'll turn it back to our wonderful speaker. We always want to end with both pluggables and action items. So that leads us into the conversation. What's something you want everyone to know about your particular area of scholarship, and what do you want them to do with that knowledge?
Oh gosh, I mean, I was so inspired by the work that I watched today that I think y'all are doing that good work. You know what I mean? Like, so like more of that, and whatever we can do to try to create more sustainable structures for the creation of that kind of work, you know, continuing to do that kind of stuff. If you know, my action items always have to do with reading and getting into history and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're not familiar with Black Jacobins, if you haven't read Du Bois's Black Reconstruction, which is another like magisterial piece, I mean, it goes on and on. I can go on and on, but, you know, read, use those ideas, let it inspire your work, inspire others. That's where change is going to come. We have to imagine something different. And that's why the arts are so important. It restores us as well.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I also just want to make sure that everyone who's joining us has the ability to support you in your work. So if you have any pluggables, if you want people to follow you online, if you want people to read anything you've published or buy anything, you know, this is the platform to let us know.
Well, I will let you know. Right now I'm finishing my dissertation. And I'm hoping to get a book manuscript. So I will hopefully keep the conversation going. I'm not on social media, but you know, hopefully we'll keep the conversation going in other ways.
Yes, we'll absolutely keep the conversation going. And when that's published, we're always happy to highlight the works of people who've worked with us before. In the e-news, we'll probably ask you to come back for Melanated Mondays. We'll make sure that everyone knows. Before we sign off, we have to do the work of reminding y'all that, hey, we broke. We're not so broke that we believe in not paying people, but you know, we broke. So this is your opportunity to support us. Yes, I am actively scrolling through a document to find how I can share with you how to support us in funding. It beats like that sometimes. You can find us on social media on Facebook at Black Revolutionary Theater Workshop, Instagram and Twitter at the BRTW. Website is thebrtw.org. The podcast is Black Revolutionary Media on all the podcatchers, and you can donate. You can go to thebrtw.org/donate. There you can actually make a contribution through Fractured Atlas, which is an organization that fiscally sponsors a number of organizations, not just BRTW. And the benefit of donating by way of a fiscal sponsor means that if you happen to have the ability to write off your donations on your taxes, you can do that. Also, if you get down with PayPal, we're there, sadly. On paypal.me/BRTW. We're also on Venmo at the BRTW. The number one thing I want to do, though, before we close out is thank Samantha Davis for your time and your expertise. Thank our wonderful cast, Casagnol Leonidas Jr., Mia Kogavia, Tim Craig, Donnell Cole-Price, and Jasmine Boone. I want to thank Kira DeCoudre, our live stream producer, Ranchia, our audio producer, and Dena Agusti, the newest member of the BRTW team, who has joined us as our new line producer. I also want to name that Mia Kogavia and Tim Craig are not just fabulous actors and fabulous writers, they're also co-artistic producers of BRTW. So the background work of the arts and culture scene, the boring stuff that involves spreadsheets and writing grants and having conversations about prepositions for too long and meetings with people who decide not to give you money. That's a part of this. That is a part of the arts and culture scene in New York City. And they are effortlessly doing that as well. And I am so incredibly grateful and fortunate to have their talents in my circle. With that, have I forgotten anything, Miyako and Tim?
Our Patreon. So I'm pulling it up. So, the best way that you can access our Patreon is you go to patreon.com/ oh my God, where is it? Hold on. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you go to Patreon and you look up Black Revolutionary Media. That's how you can find us.
Thank you, Mimi, coming in clutch. And with that, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And don't forget, my dog, just steady got to be the center of attention. And don't forget that every third Monday is a Melanated Monday. Good night.
Good night.